Hey everybody, welcome to an absolute bucket list experience. I'm down here in the south of France driving the new Aston Martin DB12, what they're calling the world's first Grand Tourer. And in this video, we're gonna take it on some beautiful French mountain roads, take a look at the exterior, the interior, and see how this car drives. I cannot wait to bring you this video. This is gonna be truly exceptional. All right, everybody, so this is a truly incredible trip. So me and my new friend, Ruud, who's from Holland, are out here in the French countryside in this Aston Martin DB12. I'm gonna give you my first impressions of what this super grand tourer is like to drive. Now, this is one of many DB cars produced over the years. These were introduced in 1948, and as a kid, I grew up fantasizing over the DB9. And then of course we had the DB10 Bond car and then the 11, and now this is the new 12. And the big news for the 12, they've significantly upped the power, but they've also managed to reduce the weight. So this vehicle is powered by a 4-liter twin-turbo V8, a Mercedes-sourced 4-liter V8. The old V8 in the DB11 made 528 horsepower. This one makes 671. So that's an increase of over 140 horsepower, which is, that's a mind-blowing amount of power increase from the same displacement. Now, they were able to do that by changing the turbos. It's got larger turbos, revised cam profile, and then of course they had to really improve and up the cooling. And if I just give it a squirt here, yeah, it works pretty well. So the cool thing about this V8 and the new throttle mapping is, you get the huge wallop of torque from 2,500 RPM all the way up through 6,000 and red lines at 7. So the area under the torque curve is enormous. It's a lot less peaky than the old engine. And what that means is you end up riding this wave of torque. The other cool thing too is when Aston Martin first introduced the 4-liter bi-turbo V8, they were locked in a contract with Mercedes that said they couldn't make the engine more powerful than the Mercedes that these cars competed with. But since then, they have renegotiated the contract, which means give it a few downshifts on the 8-speed ZF and a little bit of accelerator. Yeah, I mean, it's a dramatic improvement over the old model. Now, of course, in the DB11, you had the 528 horsepower V8, but you also had the 630 horsepower V12, and there is no V12 option in the DB12. It's V8 only. Now, they did that for a couple of reasons. First off, emissions, which is a very valid reason, and second off, weight and handling. So they put a ton of effort into making this car handle better, and the engine is moved all the way behind the front axle, so this is technically a front mid-engine car. It's got more power, it's got less weight, and then we talk about the handling dynamics. Big difference there as well. What is the Aston Martin DB12? Well, they're marketing it as the world's first super tourer, which is to say a vehicle with supercar performance, but grand tourer capability. A car which will impress you on a twisty road, but also sustain high speeds over long distance in extreme comfort. And the DB12 is a fantastic departure from the DB11. So I think design-wise, this car couldn't look much better. The design team and the engineering team worked hand in hand in improving the aerodynamic capability of this platform while also maintaining cooling capacity, but still having it look phenomenal. So in the front, you have the iconic Aston Martin grille, flanked by vents for dual stacked radiators and intercoolers on each side. Got the full LED headlights, these streaks down the hood which emphasize the length of the car, something that several DB cars from the past have utilized. And then you've got these dual vents across the center which just look fantastic, like nostrils on the beast. And then coming alongside, fantastic lower skirting here with this vent down the side portion that really emphasize the size of these 21-inch wheels. And then as we make our way to the rear, she's got hips, boys. That is a really good looking side profile. You got this character line which accentuates the width of the vehicle and dies off before meeting this second character line, which also helps demonstrate the size of the hips on this vehicle. And then you also have active aerodynamics. So in the rear here, you've got this slit cut into the rear B pillar, which guides air through the rear quarter and then up through the trunk forcing air upwards, pushing the rear end down. And then out back here, you've got this little spoiler, which will rise at speeds of about 80 miles an hour to once again help with the high-speed stability of the DB12. Now coming along back, thin, crisp tail lights outlining the bodywork, and then dual exhaust. You can have a couple different finishes. This one is the polished finish, but there's also a darker finish depending on your color spec. This one also has the black plastic rear diffuser. You can also get it in carbon. Now speaking of these wheels, that's a 21-inch wheel wrapped in a brand new tire. This is the Michelin Pilot Sport S5. So this is a tire that is replacing the 4S. This one in this case is actually designed for Aston. You can see those letters AML. That's how you know it's designed for Aston Martin. And fantastic new tire, right? First production application of the S5 is the DB12, and that is surrounding these brakes. Enormous carbon ceramic brakes, you can see poking through there. Optional carbon ceramics, standard steel discs. Now, as we pop the hood on this car, first of all, the hood pop is on the passenger side because, of course, this car is a UK design. Pop the hood just like that. Now, it's powered by an AMG-derived 4-liter twin-turbo V8, a hot V8, meaning that the turbos are located in the V of the engine. You can see them there. Revised turbo technology in this car. So the DB12 was available in either V8 or V12. The V8 made 528 horsepower, the V12 made 630. This car makes 671 horsepower, and you can see the position of that engine is behind the front axle, so it's a front mid-engine design. New bracing, there's a new cage at the front here, which helps with rigidity, really improve the front end stability. The whole front of the car, though, is really being used as space. You got your air boxes, your intake there, but in theory, you could have a front trunk in this car because look at all the room there. Based on how far back that engine is mounted. Aluminum design as well, relies heavily on aluminum construction. And if you take a quick peek on the inside, you're gonna see some big changes on the DB12. This is the color combo you should get your DB12 in, by the way. This emerald green with the contrasting satin bronze wheels is such a good look. I also like the hyper red, I think it's a good color. Stepping inside the DB12, you've got these hideaway door handles, push in on the forward leading edge there. The car is unlocked right now, so those are going to stay protruded, but then you can grab the door, open it up. You've got those iconic swan hinges that rise the door above any curb or imperfection that you may have to deal with. And then we're going to check out this interior because there are so many big improvements in here. Now this is the butterscotch interior, a beautiful brown, which just fits the character of this car so well. Performance bucket seats there. The start button, center of the vehicle, glass, foot on the brake, push the start button. Car is going to glide into life. Now the big change on the inside compared to the DB11, well, pretty much everything. I think that the big weakness of the 11 was the interior. You had this very vertical center stack with kind of this weird triangular shape, and then you had the 8-inch screen mounted on top. In the 12, it's been completely redone. It's very horizontal in its design language. You've got this long, crisp line that connects the driver's side to the passenger side. You've got this flowing, almost waterfall-like binnacle down the middle that still retains hard buttons bespoke to the DB12, which is fantastic. And then you've got a new infotainment system, which, unlike the previous generation, is not derived from someone else's infotainment system. This is ground up Aston Martin. And for a first go, I think it's really good. Pretty quick response times. They're saying right around 33, 35 milliseconds, but you've got shortcuts on the left for home, phone, nav, music, and then of course settings. And then you've got panels in the middle, which you can use to access all the information. You know, especially some of the really old Aston Martin infotainment systems, like when they had the little pop-up Volvo thing, they were just horrible. This system is very promising, and it finally gets wireless Apple CarPlay and wireless Android Auto. But below that, physical buttons for defrost, for your climate control, your lock, your unlock, your AC control, and then those are also complemented by these little barrels, scroll barrels, which feel great. It's hard to emphasize in video how nice they feel to the touch, but they've got a beautiful little click to them, and especially the drive selector here in the middle. Oh, super crisp, feels awesome. But we have buttons on the left here for traction control, exhaust, 3 different exhaust settings. You got loud, louder, and loudest turns red for the loudest, then your adaptive damper button there, and then temperature volume on the passenger side there. You got a button there to turn off the infotainment. You got a button here for the cameras. You can engage the full 360-degree cameras, and then a button here for the parking aids. Manual selection here. One thing I don't love this drive selector, because when you go into drive, like I'm in drive right now, it doesn't illuminate which direction you're going. You've got to look up here for that little indicator there. That's how you do that. Drive modes, though, are pretty crisp. You can also see them change there in the console. You can also see it here in the middle. But this new 10.25-inch screen looks great, works great. Dual cup holders. Got a little cover that slides back, piano black. I think that's going to get scratched pretty quickly, but in a really nice touch, if you're an iPhone 13 or 14 user, is in here, you've got a perfect cutout for your phone and the key so it doesn't slide around. You can see it's very tailored for an iPhone, but if you're an Android user and your phone's a little bigger or smaller, it's kind of a bummer. You got USB-C ports back there. Seat controls are actually located here on the center console, not on the door, not on the seat. Moving to the steering wheel, perfect thickness, beautiful leather wrapped, great bolstering, some piano black finish there on the sides of the steering wheel. We've got a scroll knob, put it back in park. You see, I keep glancing down here to see if we're in park or not, but that's not immediately apparent. Beautiful knobs here for your cruise control, as well as your volume control, and then these little knobs right here on the right, you can go through different settings in the cluster. You can control that. Very similar to Mercedes with these little basically touch-sensitive teeny weeny finger controls, and then huge paddle shifters for downshift, upshift. Feel great, really are in a nice place. To the left of the wheel here, we got our light controls, very Mercedes-like. This is the one area that definitely feels Mercedes with your light control, your parking lights. But what I love about this is very little of this feels derivative of any other car. It feels very unique to the Aston, as it should for this price point. Now, we don't know the pricing. DB11, mid $200,000 range. Figure the 12 is going to be in that territory, maybe even a little bit more. We'll go over to the passenger side. We'll check out the rear seat. It's going to be pretty tiny, but pull this little leather lined strap. Seat folds forward, and then it should slide out of the way. There it goes. It's actually pretty fast. They gave those little motors some beans. Very small rear seat. This is definitely an occasional use only, but it will do in a pinch. You can see your giant subwoofer there for Bowers & Wilkins, 15 speakers, like 1,700 watts. You got the tweeters up here on the dashboard. One thing which I don't like very much, I think this is kind of an interesting choice, is there's no button on the trunk lid to open it up. Instead, you got to push a switch on the door, but down here, there's nothing. Or you can use the key. No power trunk on this model. Lift that portion up. Actually a pretty decent sized little trunk. You got little portal hatches back there, but it doesn't have the full folding seat. Got your umbrella, which is beautiful, and fairly usable. But overall, the interior is going to be the big departure between this Aston Martin and the previous one. It's so much better. I do a lot of driving in the States, big open roads, 75-mile-an-hour speed limit for 1,000 miles. And then you come out here to the French countryside, and it's these beautiful, twisty little B roads with narrow lanes kind of winding themselves through the French mountains here. And it's absolutely incredible. It's like driving through a fairy tale. This is a big car. There's no way around it. There's parts where you're passing little Renaults and Peugeots, and certainly it feels like a bit of a squeeze, at least from an American standpoint. But that's kind of part of the allure of the DB, right? This is a true 2+2, 2 seats in the front, 2 teeny weeny seats in the rear that I probably wouldn't want to spend a ton of time back there, but it is an option. And this is still ultimately a car to cover a lot of distance in comfort. But on this new platform, James, the engineer, told me they put a lot more work into changing the character of the car by twisting this knob. So you got this knob down here. You can put it in the sport mode. You can put it in the sport plus mode. Now the way that this is incorporated, it's all one knob actuated, right? You don't have a knob for the powertrain and a knob for the chassis. And we also, for the first time, have Bilstein adaptive dampers. So when you stick it in the Sport Plus mode, you notice a huge difference in the damping capability of the shocks. Now, luckily you can tone it down, because when you go into the Sport Plus, it's pretty firm. You feel a lot of the road imperfections coming through, but on a twisty road, it inspires a huge amount of confidence. And they've also managed to, because of new chassis stiffness, the whole chassis is about 7% stiffer, but 138% increase in stiffness in the front axle and the front steering gear, which has decreased understeer events by about 12%. So it's far less likely to understeer in this vehicle. And the whole car is just way more dynamic than you'd expect from such a big, large, heavy car, right? You feel pretty comfortable pitching it into a turn and knowing it's going to stick. And part of the reason you're so comfortable knowing it's going to stick is because of the Michelin Pilot Sport S5s. So the old tire, Michelin Pilot Sport 4Ss, now S5, new generation, it is such a sticky tire. I'm a pretty slow driver, but Ruud earlier was really ripping this thing around. And the thing just sticks like crazy. I mean, it's almost like a track tire, an autocross tire, when it comes to some of its capability, but it's surprisingly compliant. You know, if you did want to cruise down a motorway for a long time, this car would absolutely be willing to do so. Now, what about this car's competitive set? Well, vehicles like the 911 turbos, you've got some of the Bentley offerings, right? These premium vehicles, both GT and sports oriented. Now, I still feel like from a design standpoint, from an interior comfort standpoint, especially like you look at all the leather, this thing is definitely geared more towards still long distance touring. This is a car that's meant to cover a ton of miles in extreme comfort. But the nice thing about the 12 is you can drop it a couple cogs on that ZF 8-speed torque converter, by the way, but much improved over the old one, and you can hustle it around turns now, and it's not gonna be, you know, wallowy, or it's not going to complain, and it certainly isn't going to show its weight as much as something like the Bentley would, which is, you know, a really impressive thing that they were able to mask so much of this vehicle's mass, which is very, very cool. And you can do so with wide tires, and they certainly have taken full advantage of that. Now, the transmission is great. Some of the dual clutches that we've seen out of Europe work great on a back road like this. Pretty miserable around town. Just herky-jerky, clunky. The torque converter feels great. Drove it on some motorways. It was really smooth. It's not quite as quick from a, you know, a shifting perspective as some of like the violent dual clutches of back in the day, but it's just quick enough. You don't get much of a torque dip, and you're right back on the power. And once again, huge wallop of torque out of that V8. Sorry, Ruud. I do apologize. But it's got a full electronic limited slip diff in the back, which can go from lock to unlock in just a matter of milliseconds. So, you know, you could, if you wanted to, pitch it into a corner, swing it sideways a little bit if you had, you know, a little bit more cojones than I do in this situation. But overall, I think Aston has done a great job with the driving experience in this car. Still very luxurious. Do I miss the V12? I miss the V12 because I can't go to my friend and be like, see that car right there? That thing's got a V12. But from a performance standpoint, this AMG V8 is absolutely incredible. You don't need any more than this. And certainly the V12 is heavier in the old generation, made less power, so it's kind of hard to complain. And the sound is good too. 3 different exhaust modes. Get it in the higher RPMs, and it's still's got a good little ring to it. All right, Ruud, start with the standard mode. All right, fantastic. Let's hear that middle exhaust setting. It'll open up the baffles a little bit. All right, and then you want to go full on, the full race mode. Oh yeah, so not much of a difference between the standard setting and then that middle sport setting, but that full on exhaust mode, that's going to see the biggest difference. All right, folks, so we decided to deviate from the usual route a little bit here, and I'm with my Dutch friend Ruud, who specializes in supercars, and we're going to go into downtown Monaco. And because, to be honest, I don't know the supercar world as much, he's going to help me out. And if I miss something obvious,
I'll guide you through.
Yeah, he's gonna help me out here.
Even when I'm driving, no worries.
So first thing we see is up there is a Taycan Sport Turismo. And Ruud, you used to come here and do car spotting, didn't you, when you first started out?
Yeah. Together with my brother, the website started here. So back to the roots.
And what's your website called?
In Dutch is Autogespot, but for the English spoken people, it's Auto G-Spot.
All right.
You can find us on all the channels you would like to.
And Ruud, what's been your kind of opinion on the DB12?
Amazing. I mean, power, instinct, it's insane. And yeah, well, look at the interior. It's the update went very well.
So that Ferrari is very special.
Yeah,
apparently.
It's the new Competizione. You can recognize it because it doesn't have any rear windows.
Oh.
It only has a rear-facing camera.
Wow. And what's the price tag on that in Holland?
I'm not sure, but I think it will go to 600,000-700,000 euros.
That's pretty extreme. And then is that a 458? 480?
Pista.
Oh, Pista.
Yeah.
When you come to the States, we'll go F-150 spotting, okay? And
Yeah,
I'll show you the EcoBoost from the V8.
And the Raptors and all the things.
Exactly. So where are we at now, Ruud?
We're at Casino Square. On our left is one of the most expensive hotels of Monaco.
Oh, yeah, GT3.
F8, Tributo,
Yeah.
Urus, GTC Forluso, Flying Spur, Ghost,
Wow.
458.
GT3 RS here. In orange. You like the orange? You didn't like the red one.
No, but Lava Orange is a nice car.
Yeah. When you were in Monaco, did you have a favorite place to go car spotting as a kid?
Casino Square,
Yeah.
best place. Everybody's passing by, so you just have to stay there. And
Got a little bit of a squirt of acceleration in this iconic F1 tunnel. Well, this was an absolutely once-in-a-lifetime bucket list experience. Ruud, thank you for showing me around.
you're welcome, man.
Overall, folks, Aston Martin did an incredible job with this new generation of DB car. You know, it's iconic to the brand. They had to have done it right, and I think they absolutely did. I would love to know your comments in the comment section below. What do you think of this all-new model? They say 85% of it is brand new, ground up. Let me know what you think. As always, this has been Tommy for alltfl.com. Check out alltfl.com for all the latest and greatest interviews.